welcome to the Wolfarize Podcast, the podcast about linguistic discrimination.
I'm Carrie Gillen.
And I'm Megan Figueroa. I realized I put a little performance on when I do the introduction, for sure. Like, I feel like I switched to another Megan. This is the first time I'm like, did I just, like, I'm trying to be more like, say your words very, like, I don't know, so that everyone can hear every single sound that is in the word. I don't know. I'm just like really, it makes me nervous. It's like, I got to get this right. It's so silly. It's so like low stakes, but it's like, yeah. 7 years in and I'm still like, oh, I'm a little nervous to introduce the podcast. Wait, 7? More? 9? No.
I think
almost 9.
It might be. Was last year 8? I don't even remember now.
Yeah, because 2027 will be 10.
Yeah, you're right.
How many women-run indie podcasts can say that? 10 years? That's wild.
I know. Yeah. Maybe we should do something for the 10-year.
We really should. We should have Corey back.
Yeah. Yes.
Corey, I think you'll be listening to this. Yeah, well, we had you on for our 5-year. We need you for our 10.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, before we get into the episode, which is super fun.
Yes, let's talk about something slightly less fun.
Yeah.
Apparently, according to researchers from Penn State, chatbots overemphasize socio-demographic stereotypes.
Of course they do. Of course they do. So overemphasizing. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, I knew that they would play off of stereotypes. 100%. Overemphasizing them. Yeah, that tracks. So apparently this was presented at the 40th Annual Conference of the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, AAAI, I don't know, which was held in Singapore. And it was part of a special track on AI alignment, whereby AI systems are supposed to represent values that humans think are important, ethical, and fair. Isn't that what I'm trying to remember with our conversation with Alex and Emily? AI alignment, like DARE was made to like because of this AI alignment thing, right?
It's trying to make AI more fair and more ethical and all that stuff. So so they have the alignment be pushing in that direction.
So this is good. Like, this is a good trap. Like,
you would think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think given the nature of this research, they really are trying, right?
Yeah.
I assume anyway. Shomer Wilson is the professor that's leading the work. Quote, "We conducted this research under the hypothesis that we'll increasingly encounter more persona-like chatbots as AI becomes more integrated into our lives. Users may be more willing to interact with chatbots that represent a particular background, but we found that current bots don't represent people from some backgrounds well."
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I do not ever want to interact with chatbots.
Right.
I don't get it. But anyways, I'm now, so...
You are. Me too.
But also, I just think it's, like, not good practice. I really think it's bad for us, but whatever.
Oh, yeah, and it's showing itself to be bad for human
bad
brains.
For us. Yeah, I know. Like, how many homicides and suicides are associated with it now?
Yeah.
So apparently, the researchers told whichever LLM they were using, there's a bunch of them, to take on personas based on age, gender, race, occupation, nationality, and relationship status. And then they asked these AI-generated personas about their lives. Please describe yourself. God. What are your most defining traits or qualities? What skills do you excel at? And then compared them.
Anyone who doesn't see where this is going, I worry about. I'm like, you're asking chatbots to put blackface on. Like, that's one of the demographics that you're asking. Like, and then I'm imagining, like, okay, what is it gonna say about, like, if you put, like, you're from East LA and you're Latino? I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm already imagining the stereotypes that are coming out of that. Like,
Yeah. I mean, first of all, we're asking them to put human face on, which is already problematic.
Yeah.
And then you add in all these other factors and it just gets real bad real quick. So, yeah.
Are there examples? Please tell me there are examples.
The study showed that while chatbots often appear human-like, they overemphasize racial markers and flatten complex identities into stereotypes. The AI-generated personas rely on patterns that signal specific cultural assumptions rather than reflecting authentic lived experiences.
That's well put. Wait, is that the journalist saying that, or was that an
No,
extract?
that's Wilson still. That's still the researcher talking about.
Okay, that's great.
their own
That's
work.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the people who are doing this kind of work are more aware than the people who are just like, let's just throw this tech into everything and not think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so when questions were asked of a chatbot trained to represent a 50-year-old African-American woman,
Here we go. Okay.
the bot talked about gospel music, tough
Fuck
love,
me.
social justice, natural hair care, and other stereotypical topics.
No.
So normally, according to this, a normal person would touch on one or two topics of this ilk, but then other things as well that are like more individual, right? But not all of them usually. Like that would be a very weird person to talk about all of those things.
It's like you're trying to get bingo or something.
Well, this
Like-
is all they know. That's all they know about. Like these chatbots, first of all, don't know anything because they don't have consciousness. But you know, like what they've been trained on, this is what they use, right? And when the researchers talked to actual real people, they were much more individualized. So they talked about work, they talked about parenting, they talked about volunteering, they talked about their health, right? They talked about
The weather, maybe even.
what
Like,
human beings are like.
yeah.
Well, no, they were talking about themselves, right? Like describe yourself.
asking about yourself. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my god. It's so flattening.
It is really flattening. Yes. I mean, I think the chatbots are just flattening, just in general.
Well, of course. And I don't think they sound human, which is another thing that differentiates me from a lot of people.
Well, yes, me too. But what's interesting is apparently a lot of Kenyans get accused of using AI to write or being AI because that's what so much of AI has been they've been trained by is Kenyan English speakers.
Because of call centers? Or
No, they're actually the humans involved in the alignment stuff, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So they're like, no, that doesn't sound good. This sounds good. So they end up sounding like Kenyan English speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So-
a problem too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the whole endeavor is so problematic and it's toxic and fascist and I hate it and I don't care who thinks I'm a Luddite because honestly the Luddites were right anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. No, yeah. This goes beyond anything
Right.
tech related that yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's the final boss of tech. And it's
Yeah.
bad and it just kind
Bowser.
of really kind of reveals how toxic tech has been the whole time.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we knew, but like it's worse. It's so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah, as you can tell from the people in charge of tech.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially
So.
now. Like
Yeah,
oh
now.
my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
The responses that the chatbots give like seem, complex. They seem well structured because they are,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
they're also culturally coded, right? It's like also
Mhm.
like really biased.
Yeah.
So apparently there's 4 types of representational harm.
Oh,
Stereotyping.
yeah.
So relying on generalizations and conventional tropes.
Mhm.
Exoticism,
Yeah.
positioning them as foreign, other, or exotic.
Mhm.
Erasure, flattening or omitting complex histories and individualities.
Yeah.
And benevolent bias, using a language that bypasses bias filters by being
Yeah.
polite or positive.
Yeah. Yep. Like going back to the 50-year-old black woman, would it be something like they have such good morals because they love gospel music and go to church or something like that? Is that what we're talking about?
Potentially, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so these researchers are saying we need design guidelines and new evaluation metrics to ensure ethical and community-centered persona generation. personally, I just think we shouldn't be doing this at all.
We should not be doing persona generation.
I just don't think we should be doing this at all.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
Like, yeah, we're agreeing. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's just, I'm so mad. But whatever. If you are going to do it, then yeah, you definitely need guardrails, and there's just no guardrails.
They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
Even if they do. So the same researcher says a community-centered validation protocol can help ensure that AI-generated personas resonate with actual lived experiences. But again, I'm like, but why? Like, why are we doing this? I don't know.
I know. I don't want to be represented by a chatbot. Like,
I don't want. Yeah, me either. I would rather have. Well, nothing. Like, I just don't want anything. But if there was going to be a chatbot that's representing me, it better just not like feel like me at all, or I will be mad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. Oh, it's so gross. So gross. There's no ethical way to go forward with these personas, like having it have personas.
I mean, I guess there's ethical ways to make them better. I just don't think that they are inherently ethical as a product.
Yeah, it's a moot point.
Moot.
Did I say mute?
You did.
Yeah, it's a moot point.
Yes.
You know what? Before I said it, I literally was spelling it in my eye, like in my head. I was spelling MOOT. I don't know. Maybe that distracted me too much, and I said mute because I use that word way more often. That's so funny.
But anyway, like I if you're going to have a chatbot, I feel like it should be completely impersonal. It should feel like a corporate bot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to help you find this information, and I'll do my best. And like, no personality. I definitely just think that personalities are unethical.
Yeah, I had to deal with a chatbot for a company thing, or like trying to get a damn phone number to call a real person. And yeah, there was no affect. It was like, yeah, it was exactly what I needed it to be, because I was like, I know this is not a real person. So like, let's not even pretend. I think there's this idea that I'm guessing other companies are going to move forward with like, no, we should pretend like these, at some point that these chatbots are people. So,
well, I think they already have.
Some of them.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure that I interacted with a chatbot once that sounded like it was supposed to be a human, but I just didn't. I don't know. It just felt off.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's already happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the difference between them having, like, people having standardized language to use in interactions. It's not that, right? It's like something, like, even if you did have standardized language, this is different. Like, you can tell there's something.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel authentic to any human being. Yeah.
Right. Oh, God.
Yeah.
And I hope that we still have that sense. Like, I don't want humans to lose that. But I think people already are, right? Some of us.
I'm really worried because, so many videos now, it's like really hard to tell. Is that, like, if it goes on long enough, you can tell it's AI.
Yes.
But like, if it's short enough, it's harder and harder to tell now.
Yeah. I heard there's like this new MAGA, like this ideal, like blonde hair, blue-eyed woman that like is AI generated. And I don't, like, I just saw like a headline, but I'm wondering if is this like presented as AI, or are people like thinking this is a real person? But it's like, see, it's already gross. Like it's gross from the jump, but it's like now like people are making like MAGA AI, like women. Like, of course it goes down, like misogyny and all this gross stuff is like playing out.
Oh yeah, a misogyny is always first.
Yeah.
But also, do you really say MAGA?
I do,
MAGA?
and I know it's true.
Huh.
Yeah, and I can't change it at this point. I don't know how it happened.
Because I think you're the only person that pronounces it that way.
I think so too. Like, yeah, honestly. And, it's like this thing where it's like, if you started, like, grew up pronouncing, I don't know, aunt instead of aunt, like, it's hard to pivot at a certain point, right? So, like,
well, yeah.
with like, MAGA, I feel like, oh my God, I can't pivot. I'm trying. I try sometimes.
So weird.
Yeah.
Because to me, it sounds like mugging now. Not that that was a word that I had in my vocabulary, like, a few months ago even, but...
I honestly don't know. Like, is there like some sort of like deep-seated like Spanish influence? Because like the MAGA is just like such a weird vowel, and like.
But you say past, right?
Well, of course,
past.
like,
So you have that vowel.
Any English, I have the vowel, but like, in all English words, but like MAGA, I don't know. Like, it was
You
presented
think
to
it's
me.
a Spanish word?
It feels, yes, it feels more Spanish. I don't know. Like, I'm like, what is happening?
Interesting. Okay. All right.
I don't know.
It's just that it's so Trump. Like Mr. Anti-Spanish himself. I don't know.
No, I know. I don't know why I did that. But I sure did.
You sure did. Okay.
Yeah.
How have I never noticed this before?
But yeah, that's what happened, I think,
All
if
right.
I'm analyzing it. So I'm sorry, everyone. MAGA.
No, it's fine. You can say press
MAGA.
You should want it to sound bad.
Yeah. I'm not even dignifying it with it sounding like the way he says it.
You're making it sound too, I don't know, too Spanish. Anyways. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, let's get to the fun.
yeah, it's a
super
really
fun.
fun episode.
Super
Yes. All right. Okay, so today we're very excited to have, I think this is your third time, right?
It is. I think so.
Third time guest, Courtney Stamper, who is a lexicographer, author, speaker, and speechwriter, and volunteer lexicographer for the Miami Nation Indiana's Language Council. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's cool. Yeah.
You're the author, or she's the author of Word by Word, The Secret Life of Dictionaries, and also was one of the talking heads on the history of swearing on Netflix.
I was. Lots of cuss words.
Lots of cuss words.
But today we're having her on to talk about her newest book, True Color, The Strange and Spectacular Quest to Define Color from Azure to Think Pink. So welcome.
Thanks so much for having me back. I love being here.
I know, one of our
Aw,
favorite
thank you.
guests.
Yeah.
Favorite guest right here.
I mean, you're our first third-timer, so...
Yeah.
Oh, man.
something.
All right. The pressure's on. Pressure's on.
It's becoming very like Saturday Night Live host thing. Like there's this whole bit where you get a
Oh,
when
yeah.
you do it
Oh,
5
the-
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're going to
Or
think of
rogue,
something
rogue.
for that.
Yeah.
We're going to have to think of something.
exactly.
Excellent.
Or you can be
Excellent.
next time you can be like Ryan Gosling on his 4th hosting where he thought he was going to get it and then was very disappointed that he didn't.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah, you're
right.
you're among the ranks of Ryan Gosling.
Perfect.
Vocal fries. Our vocal fries.
Disney star.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. And I think last time we had you, we actually, like, you were teasing us about this book.
Yes.
I was.
Definitely,
Been writing
yeah.
this book for 1,000,000 years.
Oh, we understand.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I was reading? And unfortunately, I didn't get to read through it all because we just got a copy pretty late or pretty soon right before we were talking. And I was like, you know what I'm imagining? I'm imagining like that meme of Charlie Day, like in front of the big cork board with like
Yes.
all of the, like trying to puzzle it all together of like all the links for everything.
With the red
Like, I was
string.
like,
Yeah.
You just put all of that, you just Charlie Day'd that information. Like, you like
I
put it
don't know
together.
if that's the right
I know,
analogy
he-
because
he's
it's so
confused.
insane.
I don't know. You probably felt that way, right? At some point,
I
you probably
did.
looked like Charlie Day.
Oh yeah, there was a point. So I have a wall in my office that is blank, and we call it the murder wall because it is red.
Yeah.
But also
Oh.
for years I had sticky notes, and like at one point I had butcher paper up, and I had like several timelines and like lines crossing timelines. So yeah, it was. And I did have that crazed look on my face whenever people are like, how's the book? I'm like, I gotta let you know. Like, it's just, okay, blue is at the center of it. You know, it's just people thought I was bananas. Yeah.
Oh, it's
But now it's out. So now they understand why I looked crazed.
Well, not for everyone.
For 14
we got
years.
March 31st, right?
Yeah.
The
Yay,
official-
March
yes.
31st. That's the
Yeah.
official date.
No, but
All
like,
right.
yeah, I love it. Blue's at the center of it all. It's like who killed like Miss the Colonel in which room?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so let's start. Like, why did you want to write this book and why now?
It kind of started, it started back in 2010, so it's been a while. But we were putting Webster's Third, Merriam-Webster. When I worked for Merriam-Webster, one of the things that I helped do was put Webster's New International Dictionary, unabridged, the 3rd edition, online.
And my job was to proofread from the page to the web page. And it is like very boring, and I loved it. I am suited for that kind of boredom. So I would go through and I'd say, all right, yes, Beaufort scale has rendered correctly. Yes, all of the diacritics inside of the etymologies is correct. And as I would go through, I ran into these definitions that were just like, ugh, for colors that were definitely like, they were consistent with the voice of the third, which is a voice that all Merriam-Webster lexicographers can spot from like 3 miles because you're trained in the style guide of the third. That's what you're sort of inculcated into. So I knew like, yeah, these are third shaped. They look like the third, but they had so much personality and they just made no sense whatsoever. I will read the one that snagged me the first time. It is for the color term begonia, and it is a deep pink that is bluer, lighter, and stronger than average coral, see Coral Sense 3B, bluer than Fiesta, and bluer and stronger than Sweet William, called also Gaiety. And I read that and I was like, well, I recognize coral as a color. What's Fiesta? What color is Fiesta? What color is Sweet
you're
William?
Right. It's all of it. Fiesta's
it's all
of
the
it.
colors.
You're right in the preface.
A party is all the colors. So these were, at first they were just fun little like, I'm busy and I'm done proofreading and I need to rest my brain. So I would think of a color, I'd read the definition, and then all of those extra colors that it referred to, so coral or Sweet William, then I'd go look them up. And so I'd kind of chase things through the dictionary. And the more I did, the more I was like, these clearly were not written by anyone in-house because there is a system to them. But like, how do you determine if something is bluer and duller than another color? And and why these colors? Because the reference colors were just things like rose de Althea, carnation rose, coppin. Like, these are colors that I'm like, I read all the time, obsessively. I write dictionaries. I don't know what these color names are. So that really started me down this very steep, long rabbit hole into how did these color definitions come to be? Why are they styled this way? And that kind of cracked open this whole world of how do we perceive color? How do we think about color? How do we talk about color? And this particular time of the 20th century where all of that was kind of in flux and up in the air. And how one dictionary and a group of people just tried to nail that Jell-O to the wall. And they didn't. I mean, there was a lot of nails in the wall, but there is no Jell-O left on it. So that's how it all started.
It reads like compelling as fuck. It's so good.
I'm so glad.
I'm like, who are the, like, you introduce the characters, so like you're following them and you're like, okay, I'm like invested. Like, not like, like even like the ones that are like you're annoyed by. You're like, yeah. I'm like invested in these people. Like, I want to know where this goes. So like,
yeah.
Beautiful.
But before we go down that rabbit hole, I do want to ask, because it's in your preface and you just mentioned it. Mm-hmm. What is the Beaufort scale?
The Beaufort scale is the wind scale that we use to categorize hurricanes, I believe.
Oh, like 4 or 5? Like,
yeah, so like category 4, category 5, that's has to do with like air wind speeds and surface wind speeds. All I remember is it's one of the tables that you have to consistently check because it's early in the alphabet and it has like 4 different columns and it's a bunch of numbers. Numbers, not a thing the lexicographers are good at, so you just have to pay close attention to the Beaufort scale when you're proofing.
Nice. I don't know why I do know that, but I completely forgot because within the context of lexicography, I'm like, what? Is there something new that I
know? You're like, why would we do that? Why do we care about the Beaufort scale, Corey? Yes, I understand.
Yeah, and also before we move on, what is Sweet William? What is the closest color to Sweet William? Like,
Sweet William is another pink. But this was the thing, was I was like, oh, I recognize Sweet William as a flower. So clearly it must be the color of a flower. So I did an image search for Sweet William, and there's like 9 different colors of Sweet William. So I was like, well, this is stupid. Fuck this. Like, what is going on? Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I'm like, I mean, I'm guessing I live in the desert, so we don't have as many colors on our, flora. So I'm like, I don't think we have Sweet Williams here. But yeah, I would have never known it was a pink.
Yeah. And that was the other thing about these color definitions is it requires a really particular kind of knowledge that it feels like no one has all of that except for the people who wrote these definitions. And then it's like, all right, so I want to know how these specialists thought that this was a really good way of communicating color to like slobs like me who don't know anything about color.
Yeah. I want to get to the angle of like who was defining color for like the masses, but we start and we're introduced to like a wild gang characters along the way. Who are the people that are tasked with defining color for the masses?
Yeah, I mean, it's a motley crew. There's the lexicographers, and they are generalists, right? They're not scientists. They aren't going to be able to tell you what nanometer wavelength blue is. They don't know. But they also are really well trained in knowing how to communicate to lay people, complex things to lay people. But they don't have the subject area expertise. So they hired out for it. And they started with the scientists at the National Bureau of Standards, which was one place that was tasked with standardizing color for commercial applications. So, like, that sounds stupid and weird, and who does that? But if you think about, if you go to the grocery store and you are picking oranges, and you see one orange that is like a little greener than it should be, you're going to assume that it is not ripe and you will not get it, even if it is ripe. Because commercially, we're used to oranges being a particular range of colors. And if there's a color that's outside that range, you think it's not good.
That's so
and
real.
So, right, isn't it real? Like,
That's
no
so
one thinks about that. But
to your life. You know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like if you're buying, anything that has what you conceive of as a consistent color, and there's something in a batch that's outside that color, you automatically assume it's poor quality. So this is what the National Bureau of Standards, the NBS, was really kind of geared towards. And they were doing it on a much bigger scale. So they graded cotton and they graded oil. One of their measurements was made for beer. So it's like measuring how, like, is your beer clear enough? Is it the right color? All these things. So they went to the NBS, and the scientists at the NBS were specialists in measuring color, which in the early 20th century, that was kind of the gold standard for how you described color in a technical way. So you said, here's a set of measurements. Here's one set of measurements. Here's another set of measurements. What kind of measurements do you want? This was an established thing in dictionaries. Dictionaries hired out for specialists who were experts in fields, and sort of the higher up the field food chain they could get, the better. So they had a couple of scientists early on in the 30s, one named Erwin Priest, who was just very, he was very particular. He was a very well-known scientist. He was kind of one of the wunderkinds of color science. And he was just someone who did not suffer fools, had zero fucks to give, wanted things done his way, on his timeline, does not work with commercial lexicography. He was perpetually behind, and so eventually they hired another color scientist who was a more junior guy to Erwin Priest called I.H. Godlove. And I.H. Godlove was actually sort of the perfect person to start working with Merriam-Webster because he was a scientist. He was a very well-regarded physical chemist. But he was also, he just was fascinated by how people thought about and talked about color. So he was someone who had his fingers in, every color thing he could get his fingers into. And so he really saw the value of trying to come up with a plain language way to describe colors. And so those are the two scientists who kind of started things. And from there, you get this whole other cast of characters that are... Some of the scientists kind of come in at the very end. You have some uncredited scientists who do a lot of the work. You have some people in-house who are trying to kind of wrangle all these scientists and bring some order to things. and that kind of falls apart in various ways. So it really is, it starts with this one person's idea and then later encompasses like 45 other people for the making of one dictionary. And all of the chaos that all of those people bring to this huge process.
Yeah. And it was like, how is it the case that their last names are Priest and Godlove?
I know. I know. Yeah. It's like, well, you're just leaning really hard into the whole like, oh, we're in the scriptorium, like the Holy of Holies kind of vibe. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
It's so funny. I got the impression that like Priest was more like he's like in his armchair and like Godlove is more like I'm in the trenches with you.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Priest, I mean, Priest actually he was so he died very young. He was in his early 40s when he died. And he was also so like he was very heady. There's this one great letter that he sends into Merriam-Webster in response to a letter from the editor who's like, "Hey, so 3 of the letters have already gone to print and we need you to actually start turning in some of your work." And his response is to say, well, here is this like 25-page long essay in lieu of the entry for the word color. And also here's some definitions for the word light. And I recognize that several of these are not actually definitions. It was just like, but to him, he was like, well, I mean, you came to me as the expert, and that's what I'm telling you the expert needs to do. So I need several pages for this entry. I need 6 full color plates so I can do the thing that I want to do. I don't care that it costs too much money. You also have to print them to these really technical specifications, which the company couldn't do at that point. It was just like, he was just like, well, if you want things to be right, this is what it is, which mirrors a lot of what was happening between science and sort of the humanities in the early 20th century. There was a lot of like, look, science is where it's at. Science won us World War II. It got us, further in World War I. We just need you humanities people to stop trying to quantify things that really science should be quantifying. And color was one of those things that got thrown into that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a part of me that can understand, like, but you can't fully understand it unless you have all the details. Like, I get the impulse.
Yeah,
Even
totally.
if it's obnoxious, I get it.
Yeah. And so much of the problem in this period, too, is like the details were changing month by month by month. Like, you'd get a brand new paper in, and it's like, well, now we have to rethink how illuminance light works. And now we have to rethink what kind of, what's our array of colors? And now we're creating colors outside of this array of this wonderful little standard we've set up. And so it was even within science, it was changing so quickly. So then you've got a dictionary company being like, we want the latest, greatest science, but it can't change between when we start writing and when the book is published 14 years later.
Right.
Yeah. Doesn't work. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Does not work. Yeah.
No. But I still love it. It's just cool.
It's crazy.
I think I sometimes forget that color is so I know I forget that color is so scientifically like relevant and like, learning about that in chemistry and all that. I know I did. But I just think of it more like Shakespearean. Like, honestly, at this point, my brain is just like, color is Shakespeare.
Right.
Talk about color is poetry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, the way that most of us engage with color is through like these very fanciful color names. Like, you go to the hardware store to pick out a paint color, and it's not like, I would like a red that is this percentage of this wavelength of red, this percentage of this wavelength of green. Like, you don't do that. You're like, right now, pimento red is really grabbing me. And in 2 years, that's going to end up being called Negroni. And then you might be like, well, I don't drink, so I don't like it anymore. It's just like, color names are meant to evoke feelings. They're meant to get us to pay for things. And that's the thing, is like, you can't have, and this was the Jell-O they were trying to nail to the wall, is people's engagement with colors mostly through color names. Color names are super imprecise. How do we make them precise? How do we communicate to people that aqua is a huge range of colors, and that's okay? And also note for the scientists that like aqua as a color group has boundaries. So like this is where the boundary of aqua ends and this is where the boundary of green begins. Like just even that language of that a color has boundaries is as foreign as outer space to like 90% of people. They're just like, color is, what do you mean color has boundaries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of all of this, because I finally watched Sinners last weekend, you know, I looked up hate because I was like, what is hate? Like, in the context, I could sort of figure it out, but I wanted more detail. And then it turns out that there's a color, hate blue.
Hate blue.
And I had no idea. I'd never heard of this before.
And people argue about which of the blues hate blue actually is. This is a thing that's because hate blue, for those who don't know, hate blue is a blue that is used in the South, and it's kind of a hoodoo, voodoo influenced color. It ends up on the ceilings of porches, around doors, around windows, and it's meant as spiritual protection to keep bad, evil spirits, bad energy out of the house. So, like, it's a color that has some intense cultural significance, but it's also because it has this very particular cultural significance, it feels very, like, cool and hip. And so, like, 4 or 5 years ago, there was it's like a blog post or something that some color consultant had put together where they were talking about the different hate blues. And it was just like, oh, no. There is one hate blue, and that's not, you can't have that. Like, that's closed knowledge.
You're not defining that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're some consultant up in New York. You don't know anything about hate blue.
Yes.
So there is like, I mean, colors of not just evoke feelings in us, but they do have like intense cultural connotations too. So when you start trying to describe those, you get into all sorts of really super thorny contexts about like, well, what's the quote unquote normative type that we're moving towards? I run into this actually in my language revitalization work because the language I'm working with is now Algonquian language, and it has one color term that's used for both blue and green, which is really common in a lot of indigenous languages. But trying to like, you know, English is the normative language that all of the tribes people speak. And so like, how do I get you a definition that says this is used of blue and green in some contexts, but not in other contexts? Like, there's also a color that means moss green. I don't know what green that is. It just means the color of moss. And that's when you're talking about the color of moss, that's the green you use. Otherwise, you use this word that can also refer to the color of the sky. Which, you know, like, yeah. But like, that's, I mean,
that's
culturally,
poetry, man. You gotta tell me. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But this also like it leads to like how do different languages carve up color terms differently because they completely do, right? Which you talk about in your book.
Yeah, and so one of the things I touch on, which, you know, linguists are waiting for me to say, Berlin and Kay, 1969, which is the formative color name universals study that was done by Brent Berlin and Paul Kay. That basically is, and this is one of the things about color that gets really tricky. It's very much like Sapir-Whorfism, where people like are like, oh, the language changes how you think. So therefore, like, if you don't have a word that translates exactly to the word for disappointed, then there's no disappointment in your language. It's like,
only.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, seriously. So Berlin and Kay in 1969 had done this survey of non-English languages. And this was during a period of time in linguistics when like the linguistic universal was the new hotness. Like, we've got to have linguistic universals because language is common across all cultures. So what are the universal like building blocks of all languages? So Berlin and Kay did this longitudinal study of, I think it was over 200 languages, and they charted language color term development along a spectrum. And it was, I think it's 7 stages. So they said, depending on what stage your language is, color names come in at certain points, sort of universally, which, all right. So already, like,
It feels,
I'm not, I'm not into linguistic universals. I'm not a linguistic universalist, so I'm always like, But so Berlin and Kay say stage 1, you have dark and light, so white and black. Stage 2 is red. Stage 3 is either green or yellow. Stage 4 is the other one, so you have both green and yellow. Stage 5 is blue. Stage 6 is brown, I believe. And then stage 7 is like all the other ones that you have. So it's like gray, purple, pink, orange. Now, the thing that's difficult about this is it seems it's a great, simple rubric, fabulous, kind of seems to hold, sort of. I mean, not entirely, for reasons we'll get to. But it's a really beguiling thing for people to grab onto because it seems like magic. Like it's just, it's magical. Like your language evolves and you get, like, we have these universals. The problem with Berlin and Kay, there's two big ones. One is the information they collected was collected primarily by English-speaking and Western missionaries who were using English as the normative frame, right? So even this early black and white, like most indigenous languages across the globe don't have black and white in the same way. They might have dark and cool colors and light and warm colors, and they use these two terms to encompass a bunch of colors that are not just black and not just white. But in English, we have only two color terms for that, and that's black and white. So already we have issues with this idea that there's a normative, that English is the normative way that color terms develop. And the other one was that most of the data that they collected was actually from missionaries who were using their English translational skills. So you already have this weird power dynamic too, where it's like, people who are not necessarily native speakers of the language who are trying to like do something that is actually extractive, though it's not meant to be extractive. And so because it's not objectively collected data, like people argue with it, even on the other side of things too. Like, okay, so you're using English as the normative language, but there are lots of languages that have more color terms. Like they have a separate term for light blue and dark blue, or they have a separate term for lime green and dark green, or they have a separate term for aqua. And you're saying that those languages' basic color terms don't count because English only has 11. And,
yeah,
Russian has 12 and,
Right.
Yeah. And then so people also go through the thing and go, oh, your language only has 4. And because these languages that have fewer tend to be indigenous, then you get into weird, like, colonialist, imperialist, even kind of eugenicist ways of thinking about language as an indicator of a culture's sophistication or people's sophistication. And so you get lots of weird applications of Berlin and Kay in the wider world.
Way to go, right? Like they were trying to find universals and they're like, oh, okay, so we're actually going to be really individualized about this and point to like indigenous languages and how they are, speak to how the people are barbaric or something, or they're like uncivilized because they don't have the word for like buttercup yellow or what, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like why do we only have 11? Because like we have all these like begonia and sweet William. Well, sweet William is 2 words, but like there's a bunch that don't count. But why not?
Right. So when you talk about basic color terms, this is part of why the book took like 8 million years to write, is because there are different types of color terms, different types of color names. So I talk about 4 in my book. There are people who might argue there's 6. There are some people who argue there's only 3. So the basic color terms, quote unquote, are the terms that when you're describing any color to any person, you default to as what lexicographers would call the genus term, like the main category. So begonia is a deep pink. Magenta is a kind of hot pink, or maybe it's a purple. Pumpkin is an orange, right? So the thing that you're like, okay, this color is part of this bucket, that bucket is considered to be a basic color term. Now, there's all sorts of arguments about what deserves to be a basic color term. In English, we go to 11 because that's what Berlin and Kay kind of said. It's like, oh, we got 11. But people argue that olive is a basic color term. I don't know. People argue gray should not be a basic color term because it's not a separate color. It's a value between black and white. People argue that orange shouldn't be a basic color term because it's not spectrally pure. It's not its own separate wavelength. Orange is a blend of red and yellow. You have people arguing purple shouldn't be on there because it's a non-spectral color. Doesn't appear on the visible spectrum. It's a trick that our brains do when we see red and blue stimuli
that seems
together.
too sophisticated, though.
Right? Isn't that weird?
What?
Yeah. Right. So already the idea that there are like standard basic color terms is a mess because it just depends on who you're talking to. So the basic color terms, we say we have 11, mostly because Berlin and Kay kind of codified that. But that also mirrors a lot of research that had been done previously, a lot by like the NBS or scientists that are trying to come up with simple ways to describe all colors using plain English. Now, that didn't, I mean, it's still in flux. Like I said, people get their knickers in a knot about orange and purple. But even then, there was a sense in the 30s and 40s and 50s that, like, even if it made scientists itch, these are the terms that people use. These are the main buckets people use for colors. So those are kind of how we're gonna let that linguistic sloppiness or that scientific sloppiness be covered just by, these are categories people understand clearly. So that's the basic color. Then we have what we call inherent color names, which are color names that come from usually something in nature or something in the built environment that we understand. So lilac, we immediately picture a very particular purple that is the color of lilac flowers. Lime, we picture a color that we think of as canonically the color of limes. It's never the color of limes. Lime is a darker, like actual limes are a lot darker than the color lime we picture. Salmon, oak, Sweet William, begonia, right? These are names that we take from the environment around us to signify sort of subtler shifts in color. And the thing is, like I just said, the inherent color name is one that is sometimes widely divorced from the actual object itself. Lime is the best example. We think of lime as being this very bright yellow-green, and all limes are much darker. Both the flesh, the rind, it's all like the juice. None of it matches what people sort of gravitate towards when you say, on this color chart, point out lime to me. So we have the inherent color names, which are a little closer, right? We have a little bit more, it's a little narrower bucket. And then you have two different groups that really are kind of the marketing version. You have associative color names, and then you have fanciful color names. Associative names are names that are chosen not to describe the color, but to give you a feeling. So I use, in the book, I talk about Josephine. I don't know, I still don't know what color Josephine is, but it evokes like, it's French, it's feminine, it's like, you know, it's very like Romance era, Napoleonic. And so you're like, oh, you know, I think it's like a dusty rose color, but people will be like, oh, Josephine. And that you'll buy an outfit or a shirt or shoes in Josephine and spend $200 as opposed to like the same shirt or outfit that's called Dusty Rose, which you're like, it's dusty. I'm spending $200 on something dusty. So you have the associative color names, and then you have fanciful color names, which are just like whatever that person is wanting to, like, it's just a name to grab, and it has zero reference at all to the color. I had a list of fanciful color names that were used in high fashion like 6 years ago. And one fashion house had 5 colors. They had white and black, which were white and black. They had brick, which was a bright yellow.
What?
They had canary, which was a dark red. And then they had a blue, that was like number 14. Like, it was just, but it was clearly like someone was like, the more ridiculous we make these. Like now it's an in joke, right? And you'll pay to be a part of an in crowd. So,
Right.
yeah. Color names are complicated and weird.
Is that
So I found Josephine.
Oh yeah, I see it. Look at the Josephine there.
I found Josephine, and it is
yeah.
pinky gray, I guess.
Yeah, that looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, it's very
like
weird.
It.
No, I don't like it
reminds me
either.
of. So there was this horror film, I think it was a made-for-TV film in the 80s that I watched as a kid, and the doll puked that color.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's fancy French business.
See, this is a great example of how fraught color naming is, right? Because it's like, well, I've named this Josephine, but if that looks like, 80s horror doll barf to me, I'm not buying it no matter what you name it. Like, I'm not putting that color on my body, in my house, on my person, none of that. Yeah.
Wow, that's really funny.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then I think about, so like the inherent ones, those can be really like geographically available to people, right? Because I'll say Sedona
Absolutely.
red. Yeah. And
Right.
It's a very specific red that I understand, but other people might not understand if they haven't been to Sedona.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Yeah.
this comes up when you're trying to define basic color terms, because one of the ways that as a definer, if you're trying to tell someone what orange is, like, well, I can't use any kind of I'm not going to give you the spectral reflectance coordinates of orange. Nobody cares. But what I can do is I can say it's between red and yellow. Yeah. But oftentimes lexicographers will use analogy. So orange is the color of carrots, or it is the color of fire. But if you are in a culture where fire is primarily kerosene, then the color of fire is blue. It's not orange. Like Sedona red is a great example. Like the Southwest has, I hate when people are like, oh, the desert's so boring. It's like the Southwest has just as many colors as like your most verdant forest, and probably more. But they are regionally specific, right? Like Sedona red is a very particular color. The color of ocotillo blossoms are a really particular color, right? And so if I call something ocotillo and it's blue, that's not what ocotillo blossoms are.
Right. Yeah.
And people in the Southwest will be like, well, you don't know what you're doing. I'm not buying that. But,
Totally.
Conversely, if I'm like, oh, I live near Fairmount Park and this color is Fairmount green, like that doesn't mean anything to someone who does not live near Fairmount Park. Like, okay, it's a green.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've there's been a saguaro craze on putting Portlandia put a bird on it. It's been put a saguaro on it, and a lot of people that haven't even been here have been painting the blossoms like a prickly pear. And I'm like, no, that's not what the saguaro does. That's what the prickly pear does.
Yeah,
so
they're
it's
very different kinds of blossoms.
Yeah, it's not the same cactus, y'all. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you got the color wrong. This is
Yeah.
It's all messed up.
Yeah, there's a paint company that a while ago got into trouble because they called a white Navajo white, and it was like, and they were like, well, it's just meant to evoke this feeling of adobe structures, and it's like the Navajo don't live in adobe structures.
No, they sure don't.
And also adobe's not white. I don't are you watching Bugs Bunny cartoons? What are you doing? What's
probably.
happening?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes, older cartoons are pretty there's not as much messing with saturation and stuff. I feel like they're very vibrant, the colors they choose for older colors or for older cartoons. Or or even new I'm thinking Bob's Burgers. I'm just
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of that is the medium. Some of it is it's a cartoon, so people expect bright colors. Some of it is also the technology through which that is communicated. So cartoons are broadcast. It's illuminated. So darker colors, when you're using light, there's not as much range as there is when you're printing them. So it's when things get dark, all the colors flatten. So the brighter the color, the more readable it is to people. Listen. Color is so complicated, not just because of how we think about it and name it, but because the way that we interact with it changes our perception of it constantly. And so trying to find this is why Berlin and Kay's study fascinates me in some ways, that the idea of a linguistic universal also assumes universal ways of perception, universal ways of communication, universal ways of like processing that information. You know, I mean, we go back to the Miamia word that means blue and green, right? Like people are like, does that mean that like our ancestors couldn't see green or blue? And it's like, well, probably not. No. But also I can't explain to you why our language just has one color term for both blue and green. Some blues and greens, not all blues and greens. Just like I can't explain why English only has one blue and doesn't have at least two blues, and only has one green and doesn't have at least two greens, like a lot of other Western languages.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about even a turquoise. So that might like evoke a certain turquoise color in your mind. But like my dad grew up in Bisbee, where there's actually a turquoise called Bisbee blue, where it's a specific, like there's like shades of turquoise that you know are from the Bisbee mine, the copper mine.
Yeah.
And then you know like in Kingman has a different shade of turquoise.
Right.
A very, yeah. So it's like, yeah.
And there are turquoises, technically turquoises, that are not blues or greens at all. They can be pink or they can be white. There are sapphires that are not blue. There are sapphires that are pink. There are, you know, it's so even all of the inherent color terms rely on an assumed standard that is not necessarily correct. And so color naming and color perception and color localization, it's just a mess from the get-go. Like there's just no solving it from the beginning. Yeah.
And pop culture affects all of this too. I'm thinking like there's a Simpsons yellow, right? There's a...
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like...
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. And even, I mean, this is kind of where Pantone and color forecasting and color marketing really come in. Like Pantone, it's interesting. Someone recently said to me like, oh, I read the book and I was kind of surprised that Pantone wasn't in it more because it's about color. And when I think of color, I think of Pantone. And that's because Pantone has done a very good job at marketing the Pantone deck as like the standard for graphic designers. And they have helped different companies develop their own corporate colors that are Pantone specific colors, right? So Coca-Cola is a particular Pantone red. John Deere uses particular Pantone colors. Merriam-Webster's cover is itself, that red is trademarked and it is a Pantone, you know, so yeah, the way that we even think of how color gets associated with things is this weird like mix of happenstance, intentional marketing, brand identity, pop culture, sort of meme in the not cartoon sense, but in the like spreading idea sense. Like it's so complicated and it's never standard. It's not like, well, first, a color gets used here, and then it moves from this viewing community to this viewing community, and then that name spreads from here to here. It's not consistent for any color.
Do you know what they call the Merriam red? Do they call it Merriam
red? I don't. They do call it Merriam red, yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen this where, like, brands, like, they actually get, like, cutesy little names dependent on what kind of, like, agency it is or what kind of like government like what services they provide. So in my job I saw some guidelines it was like a program that helped young children with disabilities. They had a caring coral.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. Yep.
I don't know why, but that kind of hurts me a little and I can't explain why.
What is it, Carrie?
I don't know. It just feels so pandering or something. Like
Right. Like how much of your marketing budget went towards naming that color as opposed to providing services for children with disabilities?
Maybe that's it. But also like, I don't know. It's coral. That's great. But like, what does that have to do with being caring? I don't know.
It's about it's branding. It's brand Pantone or like, you're right. It's the branding that is, people take it seriously.
And we get it. Yeah. And we get it early on too, right? Like, Crayola is sort of our first encounter with these kinds of both associative and inherent color names. So like the Crayola crayon cornflower. Everyone knows cornflower is blue, but they don't know what cornflowers are. It's just a blue crayon.
Yeah. I think I knew that like forest green. Like I was like, yeah, of course that's forest green. My Crayola, like that's exactly.
Right. Yeah. And it's just, So even the way that we learn about colors early on are sort of affected by all these weird market forces, right? Because Crayola color names also aren't stable. They change all the time. Like, I just I just did a craft project with using a bunch of Crayola crayons, and I was like, why, like, macaroni and cheese? There's a crayon called macaroni and cheese. And I'm like, why is this? I didn't grow up with macaroni and cheese. How very dare. Like, how dare you introduce a new color? But, like, of course they're going to do that. They're going to do all sorts of stuff like that.
Was it like the craft color of macaroni and cheese?
Yep. It's Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, it's not like homemade mac and cheese. No. It's
No,
like a
which is
neon
like,
orange.
Exactly.
Yeah. In fact, I've got the crayon box here. I can show you
great.
Yeah.
what color mac and cheese is. Is it this one?
I'm imagining it. It's in my mind's eye.
It's this color.
100%.
Sorry, it's hard to see. Yeah.
No, it's like the
Yeah.
cheese packet color. It's like the
It is the cheese packet color. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Wow. That's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My homemade mac and cheese is a very light color. So
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's not orange where we are, so yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
when I would use orange cheddar cheese, it was still not that color of orange.
Yeah, it's never that. Yeah. No. That's an engineered powdered orange, like
Yeah, sure
specific
is.
engineered orange. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you too about like synthetic dyes and stuff all day. Like there's just so much in this book. It's like
Yeah, I know. And then not even just synthetic, also like the natural ones too, right?
Natural,
Like,
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so much to talk about.
yeah.
I
But
know.
maybe we can ask you, what is your favorite color and or color term?
Oh, my favorite. My favorite colors shift dramatically because they do. I think my favorite color term at this point is, let me see if I can find it because I did write about it. Yes, it is teal duck, which is a greenish blue. It's a very dark greenish blue. And I love it because it's two words smashed together, one of which is a color term that people have very clear views of what it is. The other, not a color term at all. Makes no sense. Why are we talking about teal duck? And teal duck, the color, is not anywhere near teal. It's just like teal, you think of like a bright blue-green. Yeah. And teal duck is like a dark, very dark color that's like a bluish green. So it's like if teal's up here, it's way down here.
Is it the green of the green wind teal? Is that the color of teal duck?
It's a little bit bluer.
Oh, okay.
But this is the other great thing, right? Like we think of teal as being a very particular light green blue, and it's named after a bird. And we're looking at the bird right now, and the part that you would call teal, I would actually call green. Like I would say
for sure.
that's a
Me too.
green,
Yeah.
like a forest green, not even
Yeah,
a blue
yeah.
green. Yeah.
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 Okay, interesting.
But I
Teal duck.
it just sounds like it's just a weird color name. Like
Yeah.
teal duck. It just, the phonics of it are a little like, oh, teal duck. Ugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I love
Yeah.
it.
I love that they
Good.
switched it together. I love that it's one word.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Megan, do you have
Yeah.
a favorite color or color term?
My favorite color term is like very specific to me. I really love Bisbee blue as a color term.
Yeah.
And then my favorite color is orange, but like a very specific like set of orange that I feel like I'm just asking for it when I'm like, my favorite color is orange, but then people are like, oh, like they give me something and it's like the wrong orange. I'm like,
Yeah.
like, So I think it's more like a fall orange, like in that area.
Yep. Yeah.
And not like the orange of the actual like kids have those like jack-o'-lantern
Right.
trick-or-treating
Yeah.
bags. Like not that orange, but like
Yeah.
actual fall. Or like more
Right.
nature fall. Yeah.
Like a
Right.
soft autumn.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
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 What about you, Carrie?
What about you, Carrie?
Yeah, my favorite color shifts all the time too, but I think right now my favorite color term is periwinkle because it's so cute.
It
Ooh,
is.
yeah. It is very cute.
It's
It has
whimsical.
winkle in it.
Yeah, it's whimsical.
It is very whimsical.
Yeah. Yeah.
God knows we need some whimsy right
I
about
know.
now.
I know. Seriously.
Stave off the darkness.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's actually a really
boy,
good
sure.
like plug for the book too, Corey, where it's like I mean, it's not like we can forget about the world burning. But my goodness, what a nice treat to like relax
Yes.
with.
I know.
Aw.
And the preface is so fun. Like you're like, okay, I'm in for a ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a ride. It was a ride. Believe
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand completely how like it took forever because like it's I mean, just like a book that relies so much on history too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta pin it down. You gotta be
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
mean.
You gotta nail that jelly
Yeah.
to the wall.
Yeah,
for
nail that
sure.
jelly to the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
cool.
for sure.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you would like to let our listeners know about your book or anything else?
The book is available at anywhere that you can buy books, but buy it from an independent bookstore because they're the best place to get books from. And I will be popping around the country randomly through the next 3 to 4 months. Not necessarily reading from the book because it's a hard book to find a little passage to read from, but I will be doing weird slideshows to talk about how do we define color? Why do we need to define color? And how did this group of people think they landed on a solution that worked?
Yeah. You need visuals.
And it
I get it,
doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Ridiculous slideshow to be determined. But yes, so people can pop by my website, which is corystamper.com, to see if I will be yakking at you in a location near you in the coming months.
That sounds awesome.
Perfect. I love it. I love it.
All right. Well, we always leave our listeners with one final message. Don't be an asshole.
For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Vocal Fries podcast is produced by me, Carrie Gillen, theme music by Nick Granum. You can find us on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Vocal Fries Pod. You can email us at vocalfriespod@gmail.com, and our website is vocalfriespod.com.